Thank you. Yeah, I was invited to, I guess, cover an easy topic of how to unleash the potential of biotech in the Central Eastern Europe. Now, from my perspective, apologies for everybody here, Baltic region actually belongs to CEE, but I'm not sure everybody agrees on that. Now, I am a biologist, former scientist. I also used to work for venture capital funds. The last thing I did was JJDC in London, so I've spent most of my life actually working abroad from Poland, but now I'm back to Poland. I'm looking at the region and Poland as well as an example of something that we need to work with. Now, I worked on the deck, assisted by a couple of LLMs. I thought it might be the right time to try and appreciate their hard work and into all of that. Now, before I start, one of the LLMs had a view on my deck. It said it was a bit outdated layout, so apologies again about that, but it's the best I could do. Right, we heard a lot about what biology is, what biotech is, but I will repeat a little bit, going through this, at first pace, but hopefully focusing on what I think are the important tools to apply. Now, I honestly believe that biology is the source of next technological revolution. We heard that. I'm not the only one in the room believing in that. And I think we will certainly transform everything that matters to us. We are biological beings. Now, the biology is obviously much bigger than I think many of us even think. Facebook buying a company controlling computers via sort of reading mind biology to me. Now, the biotech business is large. Obviously, we heard about that too. All the important markets are driven by biology, medicine, climate change, and food, as we just heard, is the same. Now, and that's just a subset, right? The value of biopharma sectors, obviously it's all led by US. We are in the back somewhere as Europe, but there are no countries from our region, right? I mean, there's nowhere Poland or Latvia, Lithuania, or any of the countries here because we don't generate any value as far as the planet goes. So we probably need to do something about that if we can. Right, I think there is, a lot of untapped potential for biotech innovation in the region. Now, again, we know what the region is, but for some people who may be a bit further away from it, again, I certainly think about Baltic region as part of that, but it's Poland, Czech Republic, Slovakia, and the southern countries. And we are blessed by the rim of countries that are around us. Again, we've heard amazing talks by people from various countries, including Denmark, which is obviously a hub for biotech innovation. Now, there's 80 million people living in the region. We are not producing a lot of GDP on the EU level yet. Now, two charts, and there's not much beyond that in terms of data here, but I think it's important. I mean, first, our countries are faster, right? I mean, developing quicker than the rest. That's point number one. That's on the left. On the right, most of R&D money goes into slower developing countries because this is where the people are, right? Now, marginal value of every euro spent on R&D in our region, Poland, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia, brings higher value to GDP than to Denmark, Finland, Sweden, and Germany. It's a little bit counterintuitive, but that's exactly what is happening. It's a policy paper from a couple of years ago. Right. A bit of analysis again. What are the strengths, opportunities, and challenges? I don't think this will be very original, to be honest. I heard quite a few of similar statements already today. Again, strengths, I think we all believe that there is a strong education system. We are producing lots and lots of students and valuable people. There is an emerging startup system, again, even from this panel, we've heard that. Some cost competitiveness. I think we are strategically located, being part of the EU, at the same time being exposed to our neighbors, which are well-developed countries. And then because of the location and because of the political situation, we are part of EU, again, with all the funding and research initiatives that are available to us. So I think that's pretty interesting as a starting point. Now, challenges, again, we don't spend obviously as much money as we should or could maybe on R&D, and that's the first bullet point. Now, the second bullet point I'm very passionate about, and so, you know, there may be different views on that, but I think what we really like as well is large specialized VC funds. I mean, large VC funds. Now, fragmented markets and regulations, you know, each country wants to compete with each other, right? We want to be better than our neighbors. So varying economic and regulatory landscapes, I think, are a drain on our efforts, brain drain, right? Again, many people, most skilled individuals, you know, choose to go elsewhere to develop their skills. Engineers, scientists leave seeking opportunities elsewhere. And then, you know, a little bit of, you know, something we talked about here, again, insufficiencies in tech transfer and commercialization. And so at least I see this firsthand nowadays, you know, this huge disconnect between academia and industry. Now, I don't think any of this is really secret to anybody. Now, the tools and solutions, and I think I'm getting to the interesting part where I was asked again just to share my ideas. Well, the first thing is maybe if we can spare some energy on cross-border collaborations, on something I see as sort of a pre-competitive collaboration or co-opetition, right? Where we know that it's the same with companies. Large pharma companies, for example, spend quite some time and effort and money on pre-competitive activities, you know, with the idea that the water brings all boats up, right? And you start competing when it's worth to compete. You don't compete at every single item. So I think, again, learning on that, and again, EU programs may be helpful. So collaboration on Horizon programs, working together with, you know, just an agency, EIT Health, there are many others. So work in the region together, create a bit of critical mass. Facilitate technology transfer, commercialization. Again, I'm quite passionate about building an activity that would be regional and resemble in its activity, again, one of the best models of incubating companies. Again, BIIs is certainly something that was brought to all of us, you know, quite recently, but it's one of the most visible places like that. There are a few others, but, you know, learning from the best. Capacity building, I think, again, it's is something that we basically need to try and do together. One thing which, you know, other countries are trying to play with is focus on something, and I'm just suggesting maybe focus on clinical research as a way to start winning the mind share of companies and people and investors that are looking at biotech as a whole on a sort of maybe Europe level or on global level. And then attract international investment. One of the tools is the fund that I mentioned before, and I will speak about that. Now, we've heard also about regulatory and ecosystem initiatives here, but again, I think that there is more that we can and should do together. Again, harmonize regulations. Something that we know needs to happen, but again, working together in the region and trying to be friendly to each other, to harmonize some of the regulations, again, stop competing, working together is something that I would see as, you know, huge value. Streamlined approvals, again, for the region. Again, there is only so much of us, you know, the markets are limited in some way, but again, helping to get this product to the market, you know, through streamlined approvals, I think quite helpful. Again, in my world, in the biotech, health-related world, single entry point, for example, for clinical trials and product registration. You know, another thing that is just blocking, you know, you need to go to each and every country. The smaller countries, you know, the more headache. A biotech sandbox program, it's a bit of a made-up idea here, but honestly, I think I heard the sandbox, at least earlier today, and the biotech sandbox would also be a sort of a safe ground to test technologies, but also business models. So again, now it's interesting, again, in my world, biotech, healthcare, we all, the business model seems to be quite easy. You get a pill in the box and you sell it to patients, right? Okay, it worked, but now we have medicine that is very, very expensive. Gene therapies are millions per dose. How can we afford, how can we pay for that? How to bring into the business model, let's say, insurance companies, and so on and so on. Who gets the value, who pays for the value, right? This is honestly a paradigm shift, a new business model which is required. Now, can we actually afford to lose on that, or can we, use our region to work with new business models and export the business model elsewhere? Again, an idea. And regional IP strategy, again, countries are playing against each other with, their IP policies. Maybe again by harmonizing, we could stand out as well. Right, now this is actually a highlight of the deck. That's where I'm closest to in terms of providing funding which is staged and relevant for particular level of investment or capital need. So I think we are quite familiar with the basic research funding. Each country has some sort of program. Poland is exactly the same. We're quite freely, giving money to researchers to sort of, cure their curiosity, I guess. And that's one type of funding, very important. Now, the next type of funding is what I say, the IP-focused funding. So again, grants that go into either generate IP or to develop IP, something that is on the next level. It's not this applied science, it's sort of IP-relevant science that I think is quite important. Now, it's in red because I'm involved in one of such programs in Poland. I find it actually very, very useful. Now, again, in biotech, healthcare, translational research support, really, really important. I'm not spending any time on that, but again, in developed countries, you see a lot of effort going into this area. Startup creation. Right, we talked a little bit, and it wasn't me, but the panels and other speakers talked a little bit about that. I think it's very important. Now, I'll touch on this also just on the incubator theme. And flexible startup financing, again, you need to match your financing needs with a source of capital, but something that I think is still missing. There is a lot, at least in Poland, again, there is a lot of tiny VC funds that would that they have preference of how quickly you obviously need to, get your first revenues and so on. So small investors create small companies. Big investors create big companies. At least that's sort of my experience. Creating broad investor network. One of the things here is to actually see the investors coming. But it needs to be diverse, both from the small seed as well, to the biggest ones, because it's also the crosstalk between the different investors that create value. And liquidity incentives. I think we obviously heard about that in this great event as well, but capital recycling is something that we need to see more of. Okay, and then diving into the three red areas, the commercialization R&D grants. So again, I'm working with a particular program in Poland. It comes straight from the Ministry of Education. It has 120 million euro allocated to it. The idea is to support world-class teams across different institutions. They come to us as consortia. The whole idea is to really fund them for 5 years, give them a lot of money. We grant, our grants are from 15 up to 20 million euros so far. So from 20 odd projects, we picked 3, so we are very stringent. And the Łukasiewicz Network Port is an institution that is managing the program. So again, the idea is really to pick best scientists, give them a lot of money, give them free time, and work with them, provide them with experts so that they can create IP we can then take and commercialize either through creating a startup company or or else in a different way. Now, I am not aware of similar initiatives in other countries. They may be there, I just don't know. But I find it actually very, very interesting and important. Now, the next thing is the incubator. We know, and I was very pleased to hear from Will, I think, about how Denmark invested a lot into buildings and infrastructure, and there was a lot of money, but then suddenly there was nobody there, to actually benefit from all of that. So I think, again, the advanced incubator schemes need to be focused on people, need to be focused on networks, need to be focused on investors, rather than selling floor to startup companies, right? So it's not just space, it's not just infrastructure, but it's much more than that. So one of the schemes I'm working with is this advanced bio-incubator with strategic partnership to Base Launch in Basel, which has a particular aspect of their business model partnered with selected VC funds that help with curating, help with selecting best projects and companies to be supported by this particular bio-incubator program. So again, I think it's the intelligence that we really need. Okay, and then this is my call for a regional champion VC fund. We've heard actually the number, 500 million euros, just a second ago. I find this number to be round and big enough so that there is enough money and enough gravity and enough attention given to the region, because suddenly there is a pot of money that can play together with other pots of money in other parts of the world. Suddenly you have something that can work together with Novo Ventures. Suddenly you have somebody who can play with Sofinova, US version or the European version, corporate venture funds. Suddenly you have a partner to do business with, because if somebody comes to our region and wants to find a relevant partner, there is nobody, as far as I'm concerned. There is nobody that can open doors, that can help find lawyers, that can ease their minds about politics and so on and so on. I mean, these are real barriers, these are real problems that funds need to be happy with before they invest in a particular technology. Technologies, there is an infinite stream of technologies and companies. Why would you choose one of them? Because you have a partner, because you understand what they want, because they are relevant, they are reliable. Right, so again, that's just a number. Region focus, country-specific sources of capital, but also with EU funding. I think there is a lot of attention in Luxembourg, for example, to make sure that this region also consumes some of the capital that is available there. Focus, any stage investment. So again, I know the mathematics. You have a large fund, you divide it by 10 or 15, and suddenly the pots of money that you need to give to, every of your portfolio companies suddenly is so big that you can't find any investment cases. Now, I think any stage investment is the right way to go. So structure-wise, it can be an evergreen fund. It can be sort of a closed-end fund with extended timeline. Again, we've heard 15 years. I'm very much with this. So be innovative also in the venture capital community, please, because we are very, very conservative. I think it should enable inflow of ideas and people and other sources of capital to the region. We've suffered long enough from outflow. I think what we need to do is to create gravity for people and ideas and other money to come to us. And again, this particular piece could help with that. Yeah, and then impact, connecting us to the other parts of the world, becoming a reliable, value-focused investor and believable investor to others in the system, and then very much an ecosystem enhancer. Right, so now it's more of how you would do that, catching up or leapfrogging. It's a biased question. I have an answer to it, obviously. So there are, we all believe, at least in biotech, healthcare biotech, the world is moving on and we need to catch up, right? There's this technology and something else technology, CAR-Ts and CRISPR, and suddenly we don't have these companies, we need to catch up. I think, again, the catching up mindset leads to very much uncoordinated and fragmented efforts, producing micro VC funds, producing lots of tiny companies, struggling all the time trying to find their space. They're focused on short-term gains and readily available opportunities. Low-hanging fruits are good. Ambitions should be higher. And they are reactive rather than proactive, or leading to reactive rather than proactive approach. Again, very much limited impact, global and global competitiveness, more of a regional player. We count companies, we don't count how many exits we have, right? And exasperates brain drain. The highest, the brightest minds wanted to work on new things rather than on just rehearsing something that happened, elsewhere 20 years ago. Right, and then leapfrogging, that's the other idea. Leapfrogging is difficult because you need to think, you need to strategize, and you need to bear the problem of being wrong every now and then. But leapfrogging allows, or is basically the decisions to strategically bypass some of the development stages and go into cutting edge, right? Think about where the areas are, focus there, focus infrastructure, focus financing, focus education, pick on something. And this would be, focus on the cutting-edge technologies, think about strategic niche markets. It would allow faster innovation cycles, build focus capabilities and infrastructure, and then help with getting people coming to us to work on interesting ideas rather than go elsewhere. Right, so the question, what should it be? I mean, should this be catching up or leapfrogging? Well, I'm for the leapfrogging, but I'm not, I'm not going to bear the problems of wrong choices. So again, it's on the country level, I guess, decision. Implementation, again, probably quite an easy list of what to do. Maybe the most difficult part is make the decision, and it's now. We need to make an informed decision whether it should be one or the other. And then, some ideas about how this can be done in terms of, timelines. I think, again, hoping that in some time we can be a leader in some emerging fields that are emerging now, or we can find them emerging in the next, 1, 2, 3, 5 years. That would be my dream. Right, in conclusions, I think we can become a relevant player, not the best, not the biggest, but a player, a partner in the global biotech business. But we need to think strategically and we need to coordinate our efforts. I think, again, we've heard that, overcoming the challenges requires collaboration between countries. I'm a huge believer in that, but also within the countries, between academia, industry, and investors. Again, different forces working on different people. We have different incentives working on us, but again, if we can't find a common ground, everybody will go after their own goals. And then investing in cutting-edge technologies, I think it would allow a long-term perspective and would be critical for success, rather than, again, this never-ending game of catching up to the world that is moving in front of us. Right, okay, and that's just my last slide. It's just, again, a collection of a few resources, I think, which are necessary for anything to work: a company, ecosystem, country, your own ideas. And in pretty general terms, so I call this heads. It's our heads, it's our intellect, responsible for strategy, IP, thinking. We need hands, we need people who actually do things, have their capabilities and skills. We need money that is relevant and smart and patient. And we need place, something that is well located with infrastructure that is usable. We need rules that are understandable, that are stable, that are fair. And we need connections because we can't do things on our own. And we need connections, local, regional, and global. So, I think that's exactly 25 minutes. So thank you very much for your attention. And it was great talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Maciej. Really, very precise ending of the presentation. Nevertheless, I have one question to you.
Sure.
And the question is, we heard, I mean, many times throughout the day that how important it is to nurture the talent and invest in people, actually to have the sustainable biotech ecosystems. So the question is, are there any additional funding options dedicated to teaching future specialists for co-funding study programs in academia, I mean, in your region?
Well, no, I'm not aware. I think there are programs, at least in Poland, that we want people who happen to be elsewhere in the world, who went to US or some Western European countries for their PhDs or postdocs, scientists or engineers, to come back to, to form their own research groups and so on. It's all targeted towards scientists, and I think, the academia is kind of, I think, okay with that, but there are no other programs that would bring people who are indifferent professionals, right, managers and so on. You just need to find your own opportunity. So, no, I think, again, by creating, I'm not sure I would see any targeted tools like funding opportunity, I don't know, financing opportunities, but rather, if we are working on something cool, on something big, on something interesting, people will come. So maybe, I don't know if you missed that or not, but the AI group, just the CSO left 2 or 3 days ago, and then the guy who replaced him is from Poland. He was educated in Poland, moved to US, and now he's CSO of ChatGPT. So we want him back, right? How do you get this kind of guy back now? I don't know.
Thank you, Maciej, very much. Again,
sure.
probably you will be around in the afternoon, and our participants can approach you and discuss topics in more detail.